Exclamation, everybody, and welcome back to Cube Ramblings. For me, it is a Sunday morning, February the 7th, 2016. This is actually attempt number 2 at recording this. I recorded this at the normal time last night and listened back to it this morning and realized that nothing I said made any kind of sense. My mind was in a haze, in a fog, and I just scrapped all that, and I'm going to start over again and try this again. So this episode's going to be extremely late going out because I've already missed my 10:30 in the morning time that it would normally go out. So and I still have to record the actual gameplay footage that's going on in there. So it's going to be much later today that this will be coming out, and my apologies on the tardiness of that, but I just what I recorded last night was not, I couldn't even make any sense of it when I was listening back to it. I'm like, this is nothing here is right at all. So let's try this again, shall we? I hope everybody's had an excellent week. There is so many things going on with games right now. There's a lot of stuff coming out in February here as far as games to look at and new games and betas being announced and all these other things going on. So I'm going to do my best to get, highlight as many as I can here. We also have some sales going on right now, especially with the Steam. There's a Steam, what are they calling it? Lunar New Year sale, because we need an excuse for another sale apparently. So we're coming up with any excuse we can now. And I'm going to go through the list here and just pick off a few things that look like they are pretty good deals, but we'll get to that in a moment. The first Friday of February has passed, which means we've got another Humble monthly bundle that came out. And in this one, there was a Titan Souls, a game that I played on a live stream. You can go look at my Twitch channel for the highlights from that stream. It's a Souls game, just like a Dark Souls and a Demon Souls kind of thing, by a different company. It's not by From Software. It's from somebody else, I believe. It started out life as a Ludum Dare game, and they decided to make it into a full-fledged thing, a full-fledged majigger. And it's definitely has the spirit of those games, of those extremely hard, punishing games. I think I died about almost 300 times, if not 300 on a nose, while playing. And I didn't go through all the side. There's a bunch of Titans that you have to fight. And then, of course, as the name suggests, after you defeat the Titans, you suck their souls up, and then that allows you to progress in the game. It's a 2D top-down fighter, mostly optimized for gamepads, I would say. Although I imagine you could use the keyboard on it. I don't know how accurate you would be with it, though. And it's balls hard. Like, you don't know what the Titan's going to do until you get into it, and then once you do, you're going to grind yourself against it a couple times until you figure out how to do it. Every Titan in the game has its own vulnerable spot that you have to hit. For instance, one of the Titans is like a blob that jumps around, and you have to fire your weapon at it, and your arrow that you only get one arrow. And you have to fire that, and then you have to suck it back up again. So it's a lot of, firing your arrow, leaving it on the ground, then come back and try to suck it back up and try again. And a lot of the Titans do require, like, I think the blob one required that you try to I won't give anything away, but there was some maneuvering you had to do to get to that blob and get it, destroyed, amongst other things there. So that was that's a pretty good game if you're into the really punishing games like that. I enjoyed it, even though I don't generally go for that genre. But it was a nice distraction, and I like that. I like that better than I've looked at Demon Souls and Dark Souls and Bloodborne, and I've watched people play them, and I'm like, you know what? It's just not my bag for some reason. But whereas the Titan Souls I was okay with. So I don't know why one is more appealing to me than the other. I don't know. It's just a weird hang up that I have, I guess, with that. The next game in the Humble Monthly Bundle is Broken Age, a 2D point and click puzzle game that you can. It's got a pretty good story to it. It is a sci-fi story. I've watched people play through it, so there's no real reason for me to play the game myself because I can kind of figure out all the puzzles again. It's just, I don't know. There was something about it that it's got sort of a weird, not cartoony, but a semi like painterly, I suppose, style to it. And the story wasn't really, in my opinion, that appealing. But it's if you're a fan of the point and clicks, it could work out in that regard. But not really something that I ever would get off my horse for to play. The next one is Volume. And this one I only know very brief things about. I think this is like a top-down sneaky shooter where you have to sneak around and try to get to some objectives on the map. I think it's if I'm not mistaken, it's in the style of like you're producing a TV show of some sort or something like that. It's definitely a sci-fi universe. I only know a little bit here and there about it. I've never really dug into it, but it's out there and it has pretty good reviews. So it's something that I might take a look at and see if it's any good. Another game that I haven't ever heard anything about, Panarium. This is I'll just read the elevator pitch here because it's pretty good. Panarium is set in a sinister circus arena where contestants are forced to entertain a sadistic crowd. In this frantic 2D arena arcade game, you take on the role of Willie, who is forced to run, jump, and avoid an array of killer death traps. Succeed, and Willie will become the champion of Panarium. Fail, and he will die in the most horrendous way, much to the delight of the baying crowd. So that's all I know about the game, and it's got like a cartoon art style to it. I want to look at this and see what it's like. I have no. I mean, it's a 2D arena game. I guess it's kind of like what was that game? Smash TV, maybe, possibly, maybe it's like that. I don't know. I haven't seen anything about this, so this is a new one for me. It's certainly something that I want to have on my radar. It's one of the nice things about the Humble monthly bundles is that every so often I get introduced to a game that I otherwise maybe wouldn't have seen or not or would have passed over on first sight. And now that I have it in my library, I might take a look at this. This one I've never heard anything about, so this will be an interesting one to look at. The next game in the bundle is Dropsy. This I've heard just a little bit about, but I still don't quite know exactly what it is. I mean, it looks like it's a 2D side-scroller, ? But maybe a platformer? I can't really tell what that is, but it's apparently very positive. I've heard positive things about it. I just don't know exactly what it is. It's got like a pixel art view to it, so I don't know. I don't know what's up with that. Alien Isolation. This is another game that I wouldn't normally actually go out of my way to buy. It's a survival horror game. I've watched others play it. It's set in the Alien universe where you're playing Ellen Ripley's daughter. Ellen Ripley was the main character in Alien and the Alien franchise, for that matter. You're playing as her daughter Amanda, and who has gone out to try to find what happened to Ellen after the events of the first Alien movie. And I mean, I'm not really into the survival horror stuff. The Alien franchise is kind of cool, but I was never. I mean, I watched the movies, and it was like, oh, okay, that's fine. I'm not like a huge fan of them. I just, I like them for what they are. I'm not totally bought into them, but it's it's something that I'm sure others who are really into the survival horror stuff probably have already played. So I'm kind of actually surprised to see it in here so late in the game, because it's been out for a while. But then again, we are talking about bundles here that the developers are not going to get a whole lot of money out of. It's mostly for charity. So I would kind of expect, if you're getting AAA games in here, or AAA categorized AAA looking games in here, it's probably they've probably already run their course on Steam and other areas. So that was in there. And then this month actually introduces a new concept called Humble Originals. And Humble Originals are exclusive games developed specifically for Humble monthly subscribers. These are game ideas that are a little risky, a little experimental, and a lot of fun, and so on and so forth. It's kind of exclusive a little bit. I don't know how long they're exclusive for, or if it's truly exclusive, or if it's just more of a, this is the first time you've seen it and it can also be bought somewhere else. I don't know exactly how that works. But this month is called Elephant in the Room. And it's, I don't think I'll play it, but it's, basically you are an elephant in a room, and it's up to you to get out of the house without being acknowledged. Use your powerful pachyderm skills to sneak around the house and make your way out. Your trunk is a tool. You can use a suck blow or move things around. And so I guess it's also partially a puzzle game, I suppose, where you can move things around, and also a sneaky try to make your way out of a house. I don't know what to make of all that. I guess I'll have to actually take a look at it to see what's going on there. It's just it's just a really wacky, off the wall thing, I think, to see here. And then we also have an exclusive sneak peek demo of Planetoid Pioneers, and this one's actually caught my attention here. This one is it looks like a cross between, say, Terraria and no, let me back that up. A cross between Starbound and, say, Space Engineers. You crash land onto a planetoid, and you have to build. It's a sandbox physics puzzle, 2D, physics based, blah 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 sandbox. And you have to, and they're actually comparing it to like Blaster Master and Exile. I guess that's, since that's what they're comparing it to, go for it, I suppose. But it's, you crash land and you start to build vehicles and other things to get around, explore the caves beneath the surface of this planetoid, and then I assume at some point you'll build a ship. You'll be able to get the parts to build a ship and leave it. To me, it seems a lot more like a Space Engineers thing, but only in 2D. So I'm very interested in looking at this. I'm going to probably look at the demo, since I have access to that. It's not going to come out on Steam Early Access until April 15th, tax day. That's an interesting day to pick. But it's not going to come out till then, and I'll have to see. I have to look around to see if I'm allowed to make videos of the demo. I don't know for sure if that's the case. Sometimes they say, here, play the demo, but don't put anything out for it, and so on. So I'll have to look at that. If they don't say anything, then I'll assume I can probably do it. But I want to look at the demo and then see if it's something I might want to do a side quest video on, and if it is, look around to see if they're okay with that, and then try it, and maybe you guys will get to see the early demo of this game before it comes out on the Steam Early Access. And then we also get the information on what the early unlock is for next month, for March. If you pay early, you can, or you're buying into the March bundle. It's you get Ark Survival Evolved. So that's their big headliner for the next month. That's the only one that we know so far. and then that will be, and then there'll be other things revealed when in the first Friday of March when that comes around. And then everything so far, this charity for this month is for Action Hunger. Every month they have a different charity that they put all the money towards, because obviously this is Humble Bundle, so they do have charitable stuff that they do with every purchase. And while we're on the subject of the Humble Bundle, there was some information behind it on Destructoid here, that saying that the Humble Monthly Bundle has 70,000 subscribers, which is incredible, I think, because I was not sure that there'd be that many people who would buy into like a bundle like this. Especially when you've bought so many other Humble Bundles on your own, that there would be this many subscribers. I wasn't quite sure that would be the case, but I was, if you had asked me to estimate how many subscribers there were, I would never have come anywhere close to 70,000. But apparently that's the case, and because of that, every time every featured charity for the Humble Bundle is getting, a $30,000 plus check, pretty much every month. So lots of stuff going to charities and small gaming projects, and they're expanding out a little bit more. The interview here was with the Humble Bundle co-founder John Graham. So he gives out a few information here, a few little tidbits of information on the $12 a month digital monthly thing that's going on, and it's just it's fascinating to see that it's been popular, because it's hard you don't hear really anybody talking about it. So I was very surprised to see that there's even that many on there, and there's that much money going to charity. So there you go. There you have it. Some information on the Humble Monthly Bundle for this week, or this month, I should say. Some more information. Mirror's Edge Catalyst. We just got a story trailer just dropped this week on it, and I have watched it twice, as I tend to do. I am waiting, man. I want this to happen. I really do. I think it's scheduled to come out in May? Question mark. I think is when the full release will be coming out of Mirror's Edge Catalyst, unless they push it back some more. And because it was pushed back already, it was supposed to be February. I think everything was supposed to come out in February, and everything got pushed back. That and Deus Ex Mankind Divided and a few other things. So that I've already pre-ordered it, so I'm just waiting now. I was already, I was sold already on the concept of having another Mirror's Edge game, regardless of the reviews on it or anything else. So I'm all ready to go. This the trailer does give you a little bit more information on the on what the story is going. It's basically a in-game cutscene trailer, which there was a time when that wouldn't bother me so much, but being as though I navigate Steam so often, I navigate IndieDB and all these other sites so often now, looking for things, I get a little bit ticked off when all the videos on a game are from the in-game cutscenes and not from the actual gameplay, because the cutscenes are not really the thing that's going to make the game fun. It's really the day-to-day, moment-to-moment moving around and actually interacting with stuff. And unfortunately, we don't get any glimpse of that in this video, as far as I can tell, anyway. Which kind of sucks. I mean, I've seen the earlier videos from the alphas that the journalists had gotten access to, and they look pretty good. But I still would like a little bit more. Just to see. I mean, obviously I've got it pre-ordered, so I'm going to get it one way or the other, but it would be nice if they gave some actual gameplay footage out instead of constantly relying on the non-interactive stuff, especially since a lot of video game cutscenes fall into the old movie or TV tropes of stuff, like Faith is in this one, she still retains her badassness, but she's also got that freaking annoying poutiness too. Like there's one scene where some guy is telling her like, you're not what you're used to be, and you kind of suck. And she's like, I'm gonna show you I don't suck. And it's like, come on. I mean, I get it, but that's such a well-worn trope. It's like, can we get someone who's not like freaking, can we get a hero of a story that's not freaking pouty and needs to needs to show everybody, I need to show the world that I am something. It's like, come on. We know you're something. Just be something, you know? But so I'll probably end up going full on Mystery Science Theater 3000 on the cutscenes. But that's, you know, don't take that as me being negative towards the game. I think the game is probably going to be pretty good. At least, you know, I enjoyed the first Mirror's Edge so much that I can't see myself not enjoying this, even if the game kind of sucks. So, what I'm trying to say is, don't take my word on the quality of what the game will be, because I would probably play it regardless. So, there is that. I wanted to get that out there. I'll leave you a link so you can go take a look at it and get some more information on it. And what else do we have here? We've got Dust 514, the game from CCP, the makers of EVE Online. It's a first-person shooter that was a PS3 exclusive. And it's first-person shooter, PS3 exclusive in the EVE Online universe. Well, they're shutting it down. It was not quite as popular as they had hoped it would be, I guess. And there's a rumor that they might possibly be working on another FPS for EVE Online that would be PC-centric. Which would certainly make more sense since EVE Online is PC-centric, and then they've got EVE Valkyrie coming out for VR stuff, which is going to be, I think it's going to be on consoles too, but it's really, most of their fan base is on PC, so you know, why you wouldn't make something for the PC is anyone's guess. But you know, I'm looking forward to EVE Valkyrie. I'll be getting it because I pre-ordered the Oculus Rift. We'll see how that works out. Hopefully it works out really well. It'll be my first foray into the EVE Online universe. I know I'm one of those guys that have looked at EVE Online from afar. I've never actually bothered to install it or try to make it an account or anything. And every time I see it from afar, I'm like, man, this is very, very obtuse for a newbie. And I don't feel like I have the time necessary to really make inroads into that game. I feel like it's just too over my head. You know, I had an opportunity many years ago to get involved in that community when it was still small and you know, the game was still new, and I never took that opportunity, and thus I feel like I'm so far out of the loop now that it would not be fun for me. So that is the way I've always looked at EVE Online, unfortunately. And I think a lot of people are like that, where it's just like, this is way too this is very hardcore, and I'm not hardcore enough. I'm too casual to deal with it. So I think that hopefully having these other things like an FPS and the EVE Valkyrie stuff, maybe that'll be the gateway drug, and I assume that's what CCP is looking for, is getting that gateway drug out there to get people involved in the universe. Maybe there's persistence in it. I don't know how EVE Valkyrie fits into the universe. I don't know if what you do there carries over into the persistent universe. I have a suspicion that it doesn't, but because they haven't really mentioned that as far as I know. But I know in Dust 514, the idea was that the stuff that you took place on there, people in space in the persistent universe in EVE Online, it would affect them and they could affect you, which was kind of the killer portion of it. But obviously they didn't put it on a platform that people were really consuming that much, that their normal player base was consuming that much. So I wanted to throw that out there so you know that that is happening. I think that's getting shut down in May, I believe, is what they're saying, or April. I think it's April or May. I don't remember off the top of my head. So if you do play that game and on the PS3, then pretty soon you're not going to be able to play it anymore. Sorry about that. So, oh, I forgot. I totally forgot to mention this when I was talking about Mirror's Edge, but I'll talk about it now because it'll be a segue into Origin. If you are on PC, I know that the Origin service is not very popular. It has a lot of detractors, and with rightfully so. I mean, it's owned by EA, and there's a lot of shadiness there, and sometimes they have a poor reputation with the normal gaming crowd. But Origin's been, if you don't have it on your machine, I would recommend you do get it. You do download it for free and make yourself an account. I know it sounds like you're putting a poison or a virus on your computer, but it's not really. The reason I say this is because pretty much like every couple months they have this thing called On the House, where they give a free game away on Origin that you can just keep for free. You just, once you see the announcement before you go on there and you download it, and it's yours to keep. Now, most of them are very old games. Like I think I got, what was it? One of the I can't remember the name of it now. One of the top-down shooters from back in the day. No Remorse. What was it? Crusader, No Remorse, or No Regret. One of those I think I got for free. There's a couple other things that they've given away for free on there. I think there was a Dragon Age at one point. Dragon Age Origins, I think they gave away for free. They gave Battlefield 3 away for free for a little while. And this month, it's Need for Speed Most Wanted is out there for free on Origin. I mean, even if you don't buy anything on Origin, which I've pre-ordered Mirror's Edge Catalyst on there, so I've technically bought something with them. But even if you don't buy anything on there, it's probably worth it just to get some free games out of the deal by having it installed and just, every so often launch it up and grab your free game and go with it. So that the other reason I bring that up is in regards to Mirror's Edge Catalyst, they've announced that there's a beta that will be a beta test for Mirror's Edge Catalyst that will be coming up in a few weeks. I don't know exactly when. I don't think they announced it when it's going to be coming up, but it's I assume it's going to be a few weeks because the whole game is coming out in May, so it's got to be somewhere between now and then. Math. Sometimes I can do it. So with that said, you can sign up for the beta for Mirror's Edge, but I think in order to do that, if you want the PC version, you need to have an Origin account. You have to log in with that. I know that. I've done that already. And I think for the PS3 and 4 and the Xbox 360 and Xbox One versions, you need to have the online services for them. So I think you need to log in as your Xbox Live account or your PSN account, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's the case. I know for the PC version, I had to log in as Origin, with my Origin account, and then you say I want to sign up for the beta, and then hopefully you'll get picked from the lottery to get early access to the game and kick the tires and see if it's something up your alley. I kind of like that they're, on the one hand, it's nice that they're doing these quote unquote betas, because they do act as sort of demos. I just wish that they would be open betas, right, where you didn't have to sign up for things. It doesn't replace the need for a demo so that people can sit down and play the demo and see if it's really something that they want to put money down on. Otherwise, what you're really doing is you're feeding the patient gamers, and which is an ever growing realm of people, an ever-growing group of people, is the patient gamers who are like, you know what, we're just going to wait for a sale, or we're just going to wait until the Game of the Year edition comes out, or we're going to wait for all the day 1, day 2, day 5, day 20 patches to be done to the game. We want the game to be full and ready and everything to be good. We don't need to get in on day 1 and deal with all the stuff. And I think that is a lot of that's born from a lot of the bugs that these launches have had, but also I think it's an ever-growing segment that I think these AAA devs are going to have to really go back to the drawing board and go back to the old ways and say, like, look, we used to give out demos. We used to have demo CDs. We used to have just previews that were open to everybody. Maybe we should go back and try it and stop worrying about the beta tag. Because really, let's be honest. Let's be completely honest here. As a programmer, I misuse beta all the time because it's setting expectations, right? Marketers, when they're doing stuff, they tend to just say things like, "Oh yeah, we'll have that by the end of the month," or "Oh yeah, this will be coming for." They say whatever they need to say to get a sale, right? And what happens is everyone gets in trouble because you can't deliver on those things that are being promised. And so, in an effort to get the marketers to set expectations correctly, developers like myself and others, we tend to misuse the term beta and try to get them to put the term beta on everything just so that people buying into it know that, hey, this is not going to be the final product yet. This is not going to be what you expect, and there's going to be some inconsistencies here. This is not the full release yet. And so when you see these betas coming out that aren't actually betas, it's mostly that. It's mostly the pushback from development going, look guys, you got to stop throwing us under the bus. You got to start setting expectations that are correct. And this is our, this at least helps us out a little bit, even though it's not really the true quote unquote beta. It's something that at least we can let the clients know and let the customers know that, hey, this is not representative of the final product yet. This is just us putting something out to get your feedback on it. So you're going to see a lot of mislabeling of that for a while. It used to, I feel like they should just go back to saying this is a demo, right? This is a demo, and this is going to be, there's probably going to be bugs in it, and, just roll with it. We're going to deal with it, right? Rather than slapping beta on everything. Like The Division, Tom Clancy's The Division, that was listed as a beta, right? Which is really weird, right? Because yes, it's probably a beta in the respect of they were beta testing load testing their servers to see if their servers could handle all the load and to see what kind of hacking and stuff was going to happen in the real game so they could capture that stuff. But everything else about the game was either tech demo or alpha, very early alpha. Like, there was a whole lot of stuff that was just locked off and locked away. And I feel like at that point, you should have just said, this is a demo. Just say, here's a demo of what's to come. It's not everything. It's not representative of the final product. It's just here. And then you wouldn't get so much backlash from people who are like, this isn't a beta. I can't do half the stuff in here. This is more like an alpha. This is not. How is this going to be finished by the time that the full release comes and all that stuff? And if you say this is a demo, well, then it's like, well, okay, this might have been a snapshot from very early in the development, and you're well beyond this now, and it's not like this is a beta. Right, because in beta implies that we're close to the trunk as far as the development goes. Not that here's a snapshot from 10 weeks ago that we're calling beta. This is more like here's a snapshot from maybe 2 weeks ago, and we did some QA testing before we rolled it out. So I really wish they would get back to some of the older terms, the terms that were more accurate as to what is going on there. But that's my off-the-cuff rant on that. What else do I have on here that is a nice, interesting one to talk about? DayZ. The makers of DayZ have announced that if you have a forum account, you should probably change your password because their accounts were cracked. Some hackers got in and decided to take all the information that they could from their servers. So they've got apparently email addresses and usernames and encrypted passwords, although I don't know how well they were encrypted. Were they encrypted with Assault? I don't know. It sounded like they were fairly secure in that, but they did get all the other information out of those accounts. So, point being here, if you have an account on the DayZ forums, you should probably change your password. And if you use that password on other sites, you should learn to go download a password manager and use that instead. Have a password manager like LastPass or 1Password or something like that that will generate passwords for you. You never have to remember them because it'll remember them for you. And it will also prompt you like, hey, this password, you haven't changed this password in 6 months or whatever, and just have that deal with the stuff. Don't have 1Password for everything because that is not very good, especially when stuff like this happens. It's that password's only as good then as the weakest link, and in this case, DayZ was the weakest link. So there you go. There is a, I guess, well, let me, all right, so there's a larger topic that I want to talk about, and I'm kind of chomping at the bit to talk about it, but let's cover one more piece of news here, and that is Sorcery, Steve Jackson's Sorcery, the game that I was playing on my mobile device, and I will eventually get back to, I promise. It's a choose-your-own-adventure type game, with dice rolls and stuff, an interactive, what do they call them? A visual novel, I think is probably closer to it. And it's pretty nice. I mean, the mechanics are pretty easy to deal with, and it's got, certainly a lot of different twists and turns to it. And it's been relegated to mostly mobile devices to this point, but now it's finally come out on Steam, on the PC. I believe it is available to be purchased now. And I would recommend it if you're into the visual novel stuff. I think it's really it's a nice take on it. It's a nice interface. There's a lot of text, a lot of reading. The story is pretty compelling, which is why I want to get back to it. I think right now it's only part 1 and 2 are on Steam, and then 3 and 4 I believe will be coming out eventually. I think 3 and 4 are out now on mobile, but they're not out on PC yet. So you might want to take a look at it. There's also like a little mini game in there, like a dice rolling mini game that you play when you get further along into the story. It's interesting. It's like a medieval-ish fantasy. It's a fantasy RPG, basically. You're traveling about the countryside, trying to. There's a little bit of survival to it. Not a whole lot, but it's more of a, you have food and provisions as you have to manage as you go along, and otherwise you get penalties to your fighting. And the fighting in it is more of a stance-based fighting. It's like, do you do a large jab, or do you protect yourself? And it's a lot of knowing how an enemy's going to respond and trying to predict how they're going to respond and responding in kind to that. That's pretty compelling. I like it. So you might enjoy that if that's up your alley. And so this brings me to sort of the larger topic that I wanted to talk about. I've been chomping at the bit to talk about here. So there was an article on Destructoid about Crashlands. It's not a review yet, but it's just an article saying, Crashlands, is it longer than it needs to be? And a lot of the points brought up in there were, this, it's a lot of grinding, and it's like, it's repetition. You go and do this thing, and then you gotta get some more, you gotta kill these things, get the resources from them, and then you build a machine that gives you access to other things, and then you build those other things, and then you have to get resources again to build another machine, which then, get you access to the higher level tier stuff. And that was brought up as sort of a complaint, almost, about the game. And I'm like, well, but that's the genre, right? And in fact, a lot of the comments were like, this is the genre. What is there? I mean, this is what people are looking for. It's a Terraria-like, it's a Don't Starve-like game where sandbox 2D game where that's part of the deal is you go out and you grind for some resources, whatever they may be. You get to a higher level tier and you grind some more. You get to a higher level tier until you finally get to the end of the game or the end game content. In this case, they've taken that, in the case of Crashlands, they've taken that formula and they've made it, I think, personally, a little bit more interesting because they've put a story into it. They made it so that you're running quests and you're getting quest items, and then that's then pushing the story along, and there's a lot more cohesion there. It's not, well, here's how the game works and go find your own enjoyment. It's more like, we'll give you some enjoyment along the way. We'll kind of guide your hand a little bit, and this will help you stay interested in what's going on. I think it's a really good twist on it, and honestly, I feel like we're getting this first wave of sandbox games coming out where they've taken the elders have come. So you got the Minecraft, you've got the Infiniminer, you've got Dwarf Fortress, I guess, to a certain extent. You've got Don't Starve. You've got I'll say, what's another? Terraria, obviously, and I think that about covers them as far as the elder statesmen's in the room, and they sort of made this genre. Like Minecraft kicked off the genre into most people's minds, and then these guys kind of also sort of spread it out a little bit and said, like, here's another little take on that. Here's another little take on it. And I think they've all kind of established what a sandbox game entails. And now I feel like we're getting the first wave of children, I guess, from that. So you're getting the space engineers and the medieval engineers. You're getting the Factorio and the what was the other one? Big Pharma, I guess I would classify in there a little bit. Although it's not really a sandbox game. So I guess that's kind of an outlier. You've got the I'm trying to think of the name of that not Lonely Planet. It was Endless Space or Endless Planet, something like that. Is another one in there. Planet Explorers, kind of as well, although it's been around for a while. I still feel like that's part of like the first wave. You've got Crashlands. You've got Starbound. You've got this other one that I just mentioned today, not Portal Knights. Portal Knights is something I want to mention as part of this. The demo thing, the Planetary Explorers or whatever it was, from the Humble Bundle that I mentioned a little bit earlier. And you've got all that going on, and I feel like these are the products of what was of the elder statesmen. They're the ones that are taking that concept and they're going a little bit further with it. They're not going too far, mind you. We are seeing a lot of the crafting and stuff mechanics going into other genres, like the Tomb Raiders having crafting now, and we're seeing some of that filter out. But that's not really the same thing. That's not sandbox stuff. That's more of a hey, we're bandwagoning. We see people like to do this, so we'll kind of pull this over and make artificially increase the length of our game so that people have something more to look forward to there. But I feel like we're finally getting into that first wave where it's like, here's all those concepts and we're taking them a little bit further. Not all the games in this are going to take it a little bit further. Like, you got Scrap Mechanic, you got Homebrew, Vehicle Simulator. They're sort of they're revolving around the vehicles and making vehicles and putting them in a sandbox, that kind of thing. And they're all taking little pieces and they're sort of making it their own and trying to move along the genre as it was. And so to pick out Crashlands, which I feel does take, it takes what the elder statesman did, and I think it has transformed it quite a bit and made it a little bit more compelling. Like just the addition of quests and stuff has made it that much more interesting to continue on in the game. You don't have to necessarily find your own fun in it. The game is like, hey, you know what? We'll kind of give you some ideas on how to have some more fun, and we'll kind of pull you along. It's not like a Space Engineers where you're just dropped into the game and you're like, okay, so go ahead, do stuff. And you're like, well, I guess I have to look at a wiki or something, or I gotta look at some videos and maybe get an idea of what I can do here. I mean, obviously I've got the world is mine, I can do whatever I want, but I don't know where to start. Whereas something like a Crashlands is like, no, you know what? We'll kind of guide you a little bit. You can still go off and do whatever the hell you want if you really want to. We're going to kind of just guide your hand a little bit and give you a pathway to having a fun time here. And I think it's fantastic. I really do. I don't think it's, granted I'm not at end game content yet, but I'm pretty far into the game, and I think it's as long as it should be. Honestly, I think it's if Minecraft, there's mods for Minecraft that put some of that questing mechanic in it, where it's like you have a quest book and you go off and you want to build all the stuff in the quest book, and it kind of gives you a goal to follow. Whereas normally in Minecraft you're dropped in and you're like, well, okay, I guess I got to find my own goals. And I think there's a reason why those mods are so popular, is that sometimes it is nice to have some goals and you still have the freedom to do whatever hell you want to do, but it's also nice to say, hey, like, I'm going to sit down for 20 minutes and I'm going to make some progress, instead of, well, I'm going to sit down for 3 hours and maybe I'll find enough resources to do what I want to do, or maybe not. Sometimes you're in that mood, sometimes you're not. I feel like this is all good stuff that's happening, that's kind of pulling us along and making this into something that is even more interesting than what it started out as. All the criticisms of the initial run of games, like why is this fun? Why would this be a thing? Why, and now you're kind of seeing like, oh, okay, now I can sort of see the fun of this. I can see where people would be having an interesting time with this. So that's my take on it. Obviously I really love this genre, so it's not the most independent person to speak on it, but that's kind of the way I'm rolling with it. Now you'll notice though, I didn't put Cube World in that category at all, because I'm not quite sure where to categorize Cube World, because it's not really a sandbox. There's not much you can do in it. It's more of an action RPG than anything else. Even though you can go anywhere and do anything in whatever order you want to, it's still not freeform. There's not. You can craft your weapons, but that doesn't mean that's not what a sandbox makes, right? There's more to it than that. And I stumbled upon, speaking of Cube World, I stumbled upon a game on GameSpot here that they pointed out that I think is kind of, it reminds me a lot of Cube World, even though it wears Minecraft on its sleeve quite prominently. And it's called Portal Knights, and it will be on Steam Early Access on February 25th. It has both a single player mode and a cooperative multiplayer mode for up to 4 players. But basically, you have 3 different classes: a warrior, a mage, and a ranger. Stop me if any of this sounds familiar. And you basically level up during the game. And it looks like it has both a combination of a first-person and a third-person view, because it looks like they were fighting in third person at one point, and then they were also mining in first person. So it's got all the mining and building stuff, but it's also got a lot of the encountering portals and encountering various world generations, dungeons and all that stuff, and creatures that you fight. So it has a lot of, I feel it has a lot of Cube World in it, but then it's also got some Minecraft in it. So all those things that you feel like, hey, in Cube World it would be nice if I could build a a house somewhere to put all my stuff in. Well, now this one looks like it's kind of got all that. It does have the very cartoon art style to it, so it's, you know, it depends on if you're really into that kind of thing. And it's by 505 Games. It's published by 505 Games, which is the ones that do the, you know, Payday 2 and Sniper Elite 3 and all that stuff. It's interesting. I'll link you to GameSpot. There is a announcement trailer on there. You can take a look at it. It's one of those that's kind of low on. It gives you some gameplay footage, but it's kind of still low on actual like day-to-day content in the game, as far as what you would be encountering and all that stuff. But it looks really interesting. I don't know. I feel like this might be, you know, since we're still waiting for Cube World and we might be waiting for quite some time, I feel like this would be the Cube World that we all sort of wanted. Maybe. Or maybe it's more of the Minecraft we all wanted. I'm not sure. I'm not sure at this point what to call it. But it looks really interesting, and I'm hoping it works out well. I think I'll be definitely getting into the definitely buying it on early access to take a look at it. Along with, I mean, there's so many things this month that are coming out that I just can't even begin to keep up with all of them. It's so much. I think Firewatch is coming out. I just pre-ordered that. I think that's coming out on the 9th, which would be Tuesday, as tends to be the release day for most things. So that'll be coming out, and then there's so much stuff. I mean, obviously, the rest of this year we've got a lot of AAA games that I'm going to be looking at, like Mirror's Edge, as I mentioned earlier, the Mankind Divided, Deus Ex Mankind Divided, and there was another one that was another big one coming out later on. No Man's Sky, whenever that decides to grace us with its presence, and it's just. There's a lot. Of course, I'll have Eve Valkyrie at some point once I get my Oculus Rift comes in July probably. And oh man, so many things to look forward to and to keep an eye on and keep rolling with. And speaking of the VR stuff, I have one more thing here that I think I want to cover before I call it, and that is. GameSpot also took a look at 12 games that are coming to Valve's SteamVR platform, which is the VR headset that I think HTC Vive headset, I believe. And I just wanted to point out a few of the things that here, you know, because we still don't know, despite the fact that we know a lot about the hardware that's coming out, we don't know a whole lot about what the ecosystem's going to look like as far as games go. So this one has kind of an interesting spread of games here that I kind of want to show off a little bit. So first of all, the first one I have on here is Job Simulator, the 2050 Archives. Basically, what it sounds like, it's you have VR hands and you've got this area that you're walking through. You're just grabbing and manipulating objects, and basically you're playing a parody of what it was like to work in the early 21st century that future humans would believe. Sounds interesting, I guess. It sounds more like a sandbox manipulator. It looks like, I would imagine this is more of the like a surgeon simulator or a I Am Bread kind of thing than an actual necessarily compelling game. It's more of a just let's just have a frustrating romp or something like that. It's good for video, maybe not necessarily good for laughs and fun. But that's one that they showed off. Another one is called Budget Cuts, where you are a spy with a portal gun, and you actually manipulate your spy by moving your head back and forth, and you can tilt in and out of cover, and if you fling your arm out, you'll throw knives, and you're up against some robots. I don't know why a knife would hurt a robot, but you know, work with me here. So apparently you're just a spy trying to sneak through these levels without getting caught, and you can take robots out with knives, and you know, it's a gimmick. I think there's a lot of these seem like gimmicks here. Speaking of gimmicks, there's another one, a 3D painting program called Tilt Brush, which looks something like a spin art kind of thing back in the day when you had those little machines that you put the piece of paper in, and it would spin the piece of paper around, and you would throw ink on it, and that would make colorful stuff. It looks pretty much like that. I you know. Again, all these feel like oh, look how cool VR is, more than, oh, look, we can make a game even better by integrating VR with it, kind of thing. So we're going to get a lot of that, I think, in this first round of games. It's like, oh, look how cool how VR is, and then it's the nostalgia. Once the nostalgia wears off, we might start to actually get games that use it to good effect, or that you feel like really need it. Another one here is called Final Approach, where you direct air traffic and put out fires in a management sim. This one I don't quite understand why you would need this for VR. This is like, basically it's a god game where you pick up and move units around, and why that would be easier in the VR situation is beyond me. I feel like this kind of game, to me, feels like something that would work better with, say, the augmented reality stuff that Microsoft is doing, the whatever they call their platform. I forget what it's called, but basically, if you could take a management sim, like, say, we'll say StarCraft or something like that. That's not a management sim. Like an RTS game, like a like a StarCraft or something like that, and be able to project that on a table, as the whole map on a table, and then you can order your units around from your gaming console. But then you look at the table and you see the whole map, and you can sort of like drag and drop things on the map that way with your fingers. Like if it could figure out, like, with the Kinect, say, and move your fingers around, that would move your units around or tell your units where to go. That I could see being the killer app for those. The VR for that kind of thing, I don't see that get you anything. So I don't know why. I think this is just more of a, here's some eye candy for stuff. This is why VR is going to be the killer right here, right? And then there's another one here called Arizona Sunshine. Now we're starting to get into more of the game-looking stuff. This is obviously a zombie apocalypse survival game, first-person shooter. So VR and first-person shooting, we'll see how that works out. This will be a good test of that. Like, it's something like this, because you would think that a first-person shooter would be, especially with zombies and stuff, would be far scarier when you can't, when it's right up against your face, and you're moving your head around is where you're going to see things. You'd think that would be a little bit more immersive that way. Whether or not they can actually get an FPS to work well when you're that close to it is another story. I don't know exactly how they're going to pull that off. Is it because there's going to be this huge disconnect, because you're sitting in a chair, and yet your character's moving around, and so I feel like you're probably going to get a lot of the roller coaster effect on it, where it's not quite, your brain knows something's up, but it's not quite sure what, and I don't know how that's going to work out so well. Like, if you've got a VR headset on and you're playing a game that requires where your pilot is sitting the whole time, like a fighter pilot game, say, it probably works out a lot better, because your brain's like, okay, well, I'm sitting, so everything else is supposed to be moving around me. But if your character's walking around and you're sitting, I don't know how that works out. Now, I think, though, one of these VR headsets, I don't know if it's the Vive or something else, is supposed to take into account movement. Like, you're supposed to be able to get up and move around, which will be hilarious as people bump their heads into into walls and cause all kinds of injuries to themselves. So we'll be seeing plenty of that. But I don't know if it's the Vive that does that, or if it's another one that's doing that. I'm not entirely Not entirely sure, but that's going to be a thing. And you know, anything. I feel like they should have learned by now that from the Wii sales that you know, these kind of things are good for parties, but you know, if you do party games that require people to stand up and actually use a Wii remote and all that stuff, it works really well. But if you're trying to have like a regular game, like a Zelda game, and you gotta stand up and do stuff, like that's not really going to be that popular. People are going to find ways to keep sitting down and enjoying their game the way they want to enjoy it. So I don't know if that will ever really take off in the VR realm. Another one that's kind of got me scratching my head, Audio Shield, which looks a lot like, you know, the Audio Surf kind of game where it'll play any music you want and it'll generate things in a way, but this way it's 3D and they're flying at you and you need to, I guess, tilt your head left or right to move left or right. I feel like that would be something that would be much more fun without VR. I don't know why they feel the need to shoehorn that into VR, but they did. Also, they've got listed here Elite Dangerous, which will have the Oculus support, and I believe also Star Citizen will have it too, I think, eventually. So this makes more sense. This is like your Eve Valkyrie, your Elite Dangerous, your Star Citizens. You're sitting in a cockpit and you're flying around, and the VR makes sense in this regard. So I'm cool with that in all things. Although with Elite Dangerous is one of those games that takes over your entire keyboard, right? It's like every button does something, and at some point you're going to need it. So I feel like if you're going to be doing Elite Dangerous in VR, you're definitely going to need to pick up like a like voice attack or something like that to be able to map those keys to voice commands and be able to use that to go around. Because I don't know. I mean, even if you have a HOTAS setup, you're not going to be able to see your hands. So I don't know if that's, unless you've got really good muscle memory, I don't know if you'll be able to maneuver all the things that you need to do in order to effectively play that game all the time without having to take your VR headset off from time to time and look around. There's another one on here called The Gallery Call of the Starseed. This is a exploration game. It's like a museum type of game. You just go around exploring stuff and solving mysteries. It's like a Myst kind of game, which I guess will work well for VR because you're not moving. Even though you're moving around, you're not moving that much or that quickly. So I guess it might work that way. I don't know. I don't know about that. Then we got Fantastic Contraption, which this is like a Factorio. This is a puzzle game looking thing, and I don't know why that would be better in VR versus just having a regular screen for that. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just an old man yelling at the kids to get off his lawn. I don't know at that point. Cloudlands VR Mini Golf. There's another one. It's like, okay, this is, I guess mini golf would work well, and I guess even regular golf would probably work well with a VR headset because you're not really moving that much, but at the same time, yeah, kind of weird. Not sure about it. Hover Junkers, a post-apocalyptic online shooter that sees players piloting junked-out hovercrafts with one hand while firing and reloading with the other. This is going to be interesting. I don't know. Here comes the real question here. Is if this is a VR only game, I could see this working out okay because everyone that you're playing against has VR, so you're all sort of hampered in the same way, possibly. But if we have a future where there's multiplayer games that are support VR, but also there could be other people who aren't playing in VR, who gets the advantage then? Is it the person with the VR headset on, or is it the person who can see everything around them? That's the real question in my brain. Like, this brings up an interesting point. Like, it's like, if you have a multiplayer game and you want to do the VR stuff, does everyone have to wear the VR? And if they don't, do they get an advantage over people who do? I'm very interested to find that out. Very interested, because Elite Dangerous obviously is a multiplayer, well, drop-in, drop-out multiplayer game. So we'll be able to see from that, like, hey, who's got a better, who's one-upping who with this as far as having a VR headset versus not. You know, when you're doing a PvP zone or something like that. But I don't know if your whole game is built around PvP. How does that work? That's my big question that comes out of this stuff. They have another one here called Space Pirate Trainer. It looks like just a tech demo. I wouldn't I wouldn't worry too much about that. And that's that. Those are like the 12 games that they say are coming to the SteamVR platform. I'll leave you a link to GameSpot so you can take a look at the screenshots there that I just looked at as well, and see possibly what the future is in store for some VR stuff. Now that we're finally getting a glimpse as to exactly what we'll be doing with these very expensive, fancy headsets that are on our heads, and also bring up some real questions as to how things, the shape of things are to come in the future. But I think that will do it. Hopefully this time for real for this episode of Cube Ramblings. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching, and thanks for being patient with my needing to do a redo here on this and it coming out much later. Thanks for watching on YouTube. Thanks for listening on SoundCloud, and I will see you next Sunday.